Welcome back to our channel, Coin Collectors and Treasure Hunters. If you're fascinated by rare coins and the incredible stories behind them, you're in for a real treat today. Buckle up because we're diving deep into one of the most mind-blowing discoveries in numismatic history, the legendary 1944 wheat penny that stunned the world by being valued at an astonishing $46 million. Yes, you heard that right, a single penny, the kind you might think is pocket change, turned out to be worth more than a luxury mansion, a private jet, or even some Hollywood movie budgets. But how is it possible that something as small and seemingly insignificant as a penny could carry such a jaw-dropping price tag? That's exactly what we're going to explore in this ultra-detailed deep dive, and by the end of this video, you'll understand not only the unique circumstances that gave birth to this anomaly of American coinage, but also why collectors and investors alike are willing to pay such astronomical amounts to own it. So, grab a drink, get comfortable, and get ready for an incredible journey through minting mistakes, historical twists, collector frenzy, and the ever-growing value of rare currency. Because the 1944 wheat penny isn't just rare, it's an unmatched symbol of how tiny errors in history can create financial legends that echo across generations. Now, let's start with a little background. In 1944, the United States was in the midst of World War II, and the mint was under extreme pressure to produce coinage using alternative materials to support the war effort. The year before, in 1943, pennies had been minted using zinc-coated steel instead of traditional copper due to copper being prioritized for ammunition and military equipment. These steel pennies were very distinct, silver gray in appearance, lighter in weight, and magnetic due to their steel core. However, the public reaction to these steel cents was largely negative. They were often mistaken for dimes, they rusted easily, and they clogged vending machines that weren't calibrated for the new metal composition. As a result, in 1944, the U.S. Mint decided to return to using copper for pennies. But here's where it gets interesting. The transition wasn't perfectly smooth. During the minting process at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, a few leftover steel planchets from 1943 remained stuck in the machines and accidentally got struck with the 1944 die. The result? A handful of 1944 wheat pennies were created on steel planchets instead of the intended copper alloy. These transitional error coins are now among the rarest and most sought-after U.S. coins in existence. But the $46 million valuation doesn't apply to just any 1944 steel penny. It's specific to one example that is believed to be the most pristine, rare, and historically significant of them all. This particular coin not only showcases the error of being struck on a steel planchet, but it also possesses unique characteristics that set it apart from the few other known examples. The surfaces are exceptionally well preserved, indicating that it was likely pulled from circulation early or never entered circulation at all. Numismatic experts have graded it at the highest level, possibly MS 68 or above, which is virtually unheard of for coins of that era, especially with such an error. But that's just the start of the intrigue. What makes this coin even more remarkable is the possibility that it was struck on a planchet intended for foreign coins or for experimental purposes. You see, during the war, the U.S. Mint was also producing coinage for other countries in need, and mistakes in planchet allocation weren't unheard of. There's a theory that this steel planchet may have been intended for another country's coinage but somehow ended up under the U.S. penny die, leading to an even rarer subtype of error. Combine that with the already shocking mistake of steel instead of copper in 1944, and you've got a one-of-a-kind piece. Furthermore, some numismatists speculate that this coin was hand-struck or manually fed into the press, meaning a mint employee may have intentionally struck it either as a test or out of curiosity, realizing the rarity and potential value. This adds a layer of mystery and intrigue to the already compelling backstory. Was it a mistake? Or was it intentional? We may never know for sure, but the uncertainty only adds to its allure. Adding to the coin's mystique is its perfect strike, flawless edges, strong details in Lincoln's bust, bold wheat stalks on the reverse, and an even coloration that doesn't show the usual streaks or dullness found in steel pennies. Its luster is so brilliant that even under magnification, professionals have had difficulty finding any contact marks or blemishes. It's as if the coin froze in time, a perfect encapsulation of a historical anomaly that defies logic. Only a few dozen 1944 steel cents are confirmed to exist, and most of those are in lower conditions or were discovered much later in poor states due to oxidation and wear. But this one specimen? It stands alone. Now let's talk about demand. Coin collectors, historians, private investors, and even celebrities with a fascination for historical artifacts have driven the demand for such rare pieces into the stratosphere. In private auctions, this coin has passed hands for steadily increasing amounts, and in recent years, it was appraised at a staggering $46 million, a price point driven by its absolute uniqueness, immaculate condition, historical relevance, and the sheer magnetism of its story. It's not just a coin, it's a once-in-a-lifetime artifact that embodies human error, wartime improvisation, and numismatic perfection all in one. Think about it. This coin escaped melting, was not spotted for decades, was found in pristine condition, and managed to pass through countless hands before ending up in the numismatic spotlight. Some even speculate that it spent time in a mint archive or private vault before being released to the public eye. And then there's the emotional factor. For collectors, owning a piece of history like this isn't just about profit, it's about legacy, prestige, and the thrill of the hunt. Many who pursue ultra-rare coins view them as the crown jewels of their collections, comparable to owning a Van Gogh or a rare first edition novel. The 1944 steel penny embodies all of that and more. It represents a deviation from the norm, a glimpse into a time when the world was at war, and the very materials used for currency were changing due to global conflict. It's a coin that, by all accounts, shouldn't exist, and yet it does. That impossibility is what drives its value higher and higher with each passing year. Even as new rare coins are discovered, none have managed to dethrone the 1944 steel penny in terms of sheer shock value and historical magnitude. But we're not done yet. Other versions of 1944 pennies also carry significant value, especially those that show minting errors like off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, or lamination errors. In some rare cases, copper alloy 1944 pennies have been found struck on silver dime planchets, creating hybrid coins that are also worth tens of thousands to collectors. But the 1944 steel penny still reigns supreme. And for those wondering if you might have one of these treasures sitting in your coin jar, yes, it's possible, though extremely unlikely. Most genuine 1944 steel cents have been authenticated and catalogued by now, but that doesn't stop the occasional surprise discovery. There have been stories of these coins turning up in estate sales, tucked away in boxes of old coins, or even mixed in with regular pocket change. What you'll want to do if you think you have one is get it tested with a magnet first. If it sticks, it's made of steel, and if it has a 1944 date, your heart might just skip a beat. But beware, many counterfeits and altered coins exist. Some unscrupulous sellers have tried to plate 1944 copper cents with silver to mimic the steel look, while others have taken 1943 steel pennies and altered the date to read 1944. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC can verify authenticity using sophisticated tools that measure weight, composition, and die characteristics down to the microscopic level. Their certification is crucial for determining real value. And even among genuine 1944 steel cents, only one has achieved the level of perfection and provenance that commands the multi-million-dollar price tag. It's truly in a league of its own. Looking ahead, experts predict that as the supply of top-tier collectible coins dwindles and demand continues to rise, the value of this 1944 steel penny could go even higher. Next, 1952 DeWitt penny coin. Today we're diving deep into one of the astonishing stories in the world of numismatics, a tale so incredible it almost seems like fiction, yet it's grounded in the historical and monetary reality of one tiny copper coin. The legendary 1952 DeWitt penny that's estimated to be worth a jaw-dropping $26 million due to its extraordinary combination of minting errors, historical anomalies, and the growing fervor of collectors who are willing to pay record-breaking prices for truly unique specimens. And as we unpack this numismatic marvel, you'll discover the fascinating reasons why this seemingly ordinary 1-cent piece from Denver has captured the attention of serious collectors, investors, and historians alike, transforming from pocket change into one of the most valuable and mysterious coins ever recorded, starting with the context of its origin. Since the wheat penny itself was first introduced in 1909 as a tribute to Abraham Lincoln during the centennial of his birth and continued in production until 1958, becoming one of the most iconic designs in American coinage, and by 1952, these pennies were still widely circulated, composed primarily of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. But the 1952 DeWitt penny we're discussing today stands far apart from the hundreds of millions of others struck that year at the Denver Mint, due to a rare convergence of multiple minting errors and anomalies that make it an absolute unicorn in the world of coins. And one of the key reasons for its astronomical valuation lies in its triple strike mint error, where the coin was struck not once, not twice, but 3 times, each strike slightly off-center from the previous one, creating a dramatic and visible tripling of the design that's unmistakable to the naked eye, a type of error so rare that only a handful of known examples exist in the entire Lincoln wheat cent series. And even fewer that combine with other defects like this one does, including a highly unusual off-metal composition, as this specific 1952 DeWitt penny is believed to have been mistakenly struck on a planchet intended for a silver dime, giving it a lighter weight, unusual coloration, and metallic signature that doesn't match other pennies of its era, an error known as a planchet anomaly, which can occur during the coin blank preparation stage when a wrong planchet is fed into the press. And this misstep, though rare, is not unheard of, but what makes this case so spectacular is that it combines with die misalignment, double die obverse, die cracks along the rim, and a rotated reverse of nearly 180 degrees, a confluence of errors that's practically unheard of in a single specimen, each of which adds exponential value. And when you add in the historical context of the early 1950s, when the U.S. Mint was still recovering from World War II resource shortages and machine calibration was not as consistent as it is today, the chances of such a multi-layered mistake slipping through quality control and entering circulation were astronomically small, making this coin one of the most significant minting mistakes in modern U.S. history. And to further add to its mystique, numismatists have discovered micro-doubling in the inscription, "In God We Trust," and in the date itself, particularly around the 9 and the 2, which presents a fuzzy shadow-like effect when viewed under magnification, a hallmark of hub doubling that can command huge premiums on the open market, even when found alone. But in this case, it's just another layer of complexity in an already jaw-dropping artifact. And if you thought that was the end of the story, wait until you hear about the mysterious repunched mint mark, or RPM, where the D for Denver appears to have been stamped twice, slightly overlapping. An error that occurred when the mint worker had to manually apply the mint mark and inadvertently did so at a slightly different angle or position, creating a visible ghosting effect that specialists can easily identify, and this detail alone can sometimes propel a coin's value into the thousands, but when it appears on a coin already riddled with multiple other rare features, it becomes a holy grail for collectors. And if that weren't enough, the coin also exhibits lamination flaws, which are imperfections in the surface of the coin caused by impurities in the metal alloy or during the cooling process of the blank, which can create bubbling, peeling, or cracking of the surface that numismatists highly value, as it shows a flaw in the production process that's not due to wear or post-mint damage. And with all of these elements stacked together, off-metal planchet, triple strike, die cracks, rotated reverse, double die, repunched mint mark, lamination error, it's easy to see how this coin achieved legendary status. But the $26 million valuation isn't just about the errors themselves, it's also about rarity, provenance, demand, and the story behind the find. Because this coin wasn't discovered in a drawer or a collector's album, but rather surfaced during a private estate sale where an elderly man's hoarded coin collection was being evaluated, and a sharp-eyed numismatist recognized the telltale signs of a rare mint error and had the coin submitted for professional grading, where it received an astounding MS-67 red designation from a leading third-party grading service, meaning it had retained nearly all of its original luster and was preserved in near-perfect condition despite being over 70 years old. And when coins with such rare characteristics also have high grades, their value skyrockets, and the auction world took notice quickly, with major collectors and investment groups entering bidding wars to obtain this one-of-a-kind specimen, ultimately pushing its estimated market value into the tens of millions based not only on its physical traits, but also its status as a once-in-a-lifetime find, a coin that encapsulates the perfect storm of U.S. mint history, mechanical error, and collector frenzy. And experts suggest that coins like this, especially those with layered, overlapping anomalies, represent a vanishingly small fraction of total mint output, often one in several billion, meaning that even if you search through every 1952 penny ever made, the odds of finding one with this exact combination of errors are almost zero. And that's part of what fuels the valuation, alongside growing interest from hedge funds and alternative asset investors who now view ultra-rare coins as part of a diversified investment portfolio. And with the increasing digitization of coin auctions and the growth of international collectors entering the U.S. coin market, the demand for rarities has only intensified. So while most people overlook pennies entirely, assuming they hold no significant worth, stories like this challenge that perception and prove that hidden treasures can still be found in the most unlikely places. And with errors like brockages, die caps, struck through debris, and transitional compositions becoming more understood by the wider collecting community, the public is starting to pay closer attention to the coins they come across in daily life. So it's worth checking your pocket change, your coin jars, your inherited collections, or even that stash at Grandma's house. Because while the 1952 Dewey penny that's worth $26 million may be one of a kind, the general principle remains: rare errors, combined with strong preservation and historical intrigue, can result in staggering values. And we're seeing more and more examples of overlooked coins gaining newfound appreciation thanks to increased awareness, better technology for identification, and the storytelling power of platforms like this one, where we get to share the incredible journeys of these coins from humble beginnings to numismatic stardom. And if you're wondering whether it's worth getting your coins evaluated, the answer is yes, especially if you notice any abnormalities in the design, mint mark, coloration, or texture, because while you might not uncover another $26 million penny, you could very well find a piece worth thousands, or at the very least, gain a deeper appreciation for the incredible complexity of the coin minting process and the small but significant mistakes that can turn an everyday object into a historic artifact. And as the coin collecting community continues to grow, and enthusiasts around the world remain on the lookout for these rare finds, the legend of the 1952 Dewey penny worth $26 million only continues to inspire more collectors to look a little closer, search a little deeper, and treasure the possibility that one day, they too might stumble upon a life-changing discovery hidden in plain sight, in the coppery glow of a coin that tells a much bigger story than its face value ever could. Next, 1958 Dewey penny. Today's episode is going to absolutely blow your mind because we are going to talk about one of the most sensational coins in the numismatic world, the legendary 1958 Dewey penny that, believe it or not, has been valued at an astonishing $38 million. Yes, you've heard that right, $38 million for a single penny. And you might be asking yourself, how is that even possible? How can a coin minted in 1958 with a face value of just 1 cent be worth more than a luxury mansion, more than a private jet, or even more than the net worth of many celebrities. But stick around, because in this jaw-dropping deep dive we're going to uncover all the errors, minting anomalies, and rare features that make this coin so extraordinarily valuable and sought after by collectors and experts alike. And to understand this phenomenal valuation, we have to first take a quick look at what the 1958 Wheat Penny is, which comes from the final years of the Lincoln Wheat Penny series that started in 1909 and continued until 1958 before transitioning to the Lincoln Memorial Reverse in 1959, and the D mint mark indicates it was minted at the Denver Mint, which was known for its high-volume production, and generally speaking, 1958 Wheat Pennies are considered common with over 800 million coins produced, which makes this mind-blowing $38 million valuation seem completely ridiculous at first glance. But here's where things get interesting, because not all 1958 Wheat Pennies are created equal, and among the ocean of regular strikes exists a mysterious handful of error coins so incredibly rare that their mere existence is debated by experts. And that's where we find this elusive specimen, a coin so unique in its errors and anomalies that it has been dubbed the Holy Grail of penny collecting. And to truly understand its worth, we have to dissect every single error, mishap, an anomaly that contributes to this astronomical valuation, starting with the most notorious of them all. The double die obverse. Now, a double die obverse occurs during the minting process when the die used to strike the coin receives a misalignment, or multiple impressions of the design from the hub, causing a doubling effect on certain parts of the coin. And in the most valuable 1958 Wheat Penny specimens, this doubling is prominently visible on the date 1958, the word Liberty, and the motto, In God We Trust, creating a stunning visual anomaly that's clearly visible even to the naked eye. And this kind of doubling is not to be confused with mechanical doubling, which is much more common and far less valuable, because true hub doubling involves a fundamental flaw in the die itself, which means every coin struck from that die will carry the error. And in the case of this $38 million penny, the doubling is sharp, clean, and dramatic, placing it among the finest examples of double die obverse errors ever recorded. And what makes this even more incredible is that no known double die obverse examples were ever officially documented with the Denver Mint strike in 1958, leading many to believe this coin may have been created by accident or as a test pattern that somehow made it into circulation. And yet here it is, a 1958 Wheat Penny with one of the strongest and most pronounced double die obverse ever seen. And that's just the beginning. Because in addition to the dramatic doubling, this coin also features a misaligned die strike, which occurs when the upper and lower dies are not properly aligned during the striking process, resulting in a coin that appears slightly off-center, which might sound like a defect that would decrease a coin's value. But in the world of numismatics, the more unusual and rare the error, the more desirable the coin becomes, especially when such errors appear on an already rare double die coin. And if that wasn't enough, this particular coin also displays what is known as a die clash error, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a coin planchet in between, transferring part of the reverse design onto the obverse die and vice versa, leading to strange ghost-like impressions on the coin's surface that can confuse even seasoned collectors. And in this example, parts of the wheat stalks from the reverse design appear faintly on the obverse near Lincoln's shoulder, adding yet another layer of uniqueness to the coin. And what further elevates this particular penny into a stratosphere of unimaginable value is the possibility that it might be a transitional error as well, meaning it could have been struck using incorrect planchets or even early memorial reverse dies that were being prepared for the 1959 changeover, which would technically make it a prototype or pattern coin. And while no such transitional 1958 examples have ever been verified, there is endless speculation and whispers among top-tier collectors that a few experimental pieces may have slipped out of the mint. And when you combine this theory with the already confirmed double die, misalignment, and die clash features, you begin to understand how this coin could command such a staggering price tag. And then there's the matter of condition, because error coins in circulation often show heavy wear due to the fact that most people don't recognize them right away, but this $38 million penny is reported to be in near pristine condition, possibly graded at MS67 or even higher, with brilliant red luster and sharp details throughout, making it one of the finest surviving examples of any 1958 penny, error or otherwise. And we cannot overlook the role of provenance in determining a coin's value either, because this particular specimen is rumored to have been owned by a prominent collector whose estate was auctioned under highly publicized circumstances, and with intense bidding wars breaking out between high-end investors, private collectors, and even institutions. The price skyrocketed into the tens of millions, solidifying its place as one of the most valuable coins ever sold. And there's also the psychological factor of rarity and human fascination that drives prices beyond logical thresholds, because when something is not just rare, but is the only known example with multiple errors, confirmed authenticity, and pristine preservation, it becomes a status symbol, a legendary artifact of minting history. And people are willing to pay almost anything to own it, and some experts speculate that even more. Undiscovered 1958 penny errors could be out there, hiding in old coin jars or inherited collections, waiting for someone to realize what they have, which fuels the excitement in the collector community and keeps prices high due to potential competition and discovery buzz. And to wrap it all together, the 1958 penny that fetched or was valued at $38 million did so not just because of one error, but because of a spectacular confluence of rare minting errors, including a dramatic double die obverse, potential transitional planchet anomalies, die clash markings, die misalignment, and a level of preservation that is virtually unheard of for circulation strikes from that era, all wrapped in a blanket of mystery, limited provenance, collector demand, historical significance, and sheer numismatic perfection. And that's why even in a world full of rare coins, this particular penny stands head and shoulders above the rest. And who knows, maybe one of you watching right now has a similar coin in your collection or tucked away in a piggy bank. So go check your coins, inspect those 1958 pennies under a loupe or magnifier, look closely at the date, the lettering, and the edges for signs of doubling or ghost impressions, and you might just uncover a life-changing treasure hiding in plain sight. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this incredible story. And let us know in the comments if you've ever come across an unusual wheat penny or have a coin story of your own to share. And until next time, happy hunting and may your change always bring you riches beyond your wildest imagination. Next, 1953 DeWaita penny. Today we're diving deep into a jaw-dropping numismatic story that's been buzzing across the collector community for years. A tale that centers around a humble yet extraordinarily valuable 1953 DeWaita penny, a coin that at first glance looks like any other copper 1-cent piece from mid-century America, but under the microscope of rarity, error details, minting anomalies, and historical quirks, becomes a multi-million-dollar marvel worth an astounding $41 million. Yes, you heard that right, $41 million. And while that figure might seem unbelievable for a coin that originally cost just a cent, by the end of this video, you'll understand why collectors and investors alike are willing to shell out that kind of money for what might otherwise go unnoticed in a jar of change. Because this is more than just a penny, it's a perfect storm of numismatic oddities, minting errors, extremely rare variations, low survival rates in high grade, and a little bit of historical mystery that elevates its value far beyond its humble denomination. So let's begin with the basics. The 1953 DeWaita penny was struck at the Denver Mint, as indicated by the small DE mint mark beneath the date, and while hundreds of millions of wheat pennies were produced between 1909 and 1958, the ones from 1953 typically aren't regarded as especially rare. Except when you dig into the highly unusual circumstances of a few exceptional examples that emerged from that mintage, and the story of the $41 million specimen begins with a series of errors so bizarre, so rare, and so stacked together on a single coin that they're believed to have happened under highly unusual minting conditions, likely the result of multiple errors slipping past quality control during a period when the U.S. Mint was under pressure to meet coinage demands following the war and during a time of fluctuating copper supplies. One of the most prominent errors on this legendary 1953 D penny is the double die obverse, a striking and unmistakable doubling of the date and lettering that appears to have occurred during the hubbing process, where the coin die receives its image from the master hub, and instead of a clean, single impression, the date 1953 and the words, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," appear to be sharply doubled, which is not only visually stunning but also a classic hallmark of a true double die and not just mechanical doubling or strike doubling, which tend to be less valuable. But that's just the beginning, because this particular specimen also exhibits a rare off-center strike, believed to be approximately 10 to 15% off alignment, causing the design elements to shift slightly toward the lower right edge of the coin, resulting in an uneven blank margin and adding another layer of rarity, since coins with moderate off-center strikes that still show the full date and mint mark are highly desirable among era coin collectors. And then comes the clincher: this specific penny also has a highly unusual planchet composition anomaly, where metallurgical analysis revealed that the copper alloy used in this coin is slightly off-standard, meaning the ratio of copper to zinc deviates from the expected 95% copper and 5% zinc mix used in most sweet pennies of that era, suggesting either a transitional planchet or a leftover from a different composition batch. And such compositional errors are exceedingly rare, especially when combined with visual errors like double die and off-center strike. But there's more, because under high magnification, numismatists discovered an RPM, or repunched mint mark, where the original D was struck slightly off and then corrected with a second punch, resulting in a visible overlapping of the mint mark that's incredibly sharp and adds to the collector frenzy. As RPMs are already desirable on their own, but when found alongside multiple other major errors, they can multiply the coin's value exponentially. And we're still not done, because this specimen also shows evidence of die cracks and die breaks along the rim and across Lincoln's shoulder, known as cuds in the collecting community, which occur when pieces of the die break away during striking and leave raised, unstruck areas on the coin, essentially sculptural anomalies that make each such coin a one-of-a-kind artifact, and when you put all these errors together, a dramatic double die, a significant off-center strike, a repunched mint mark, metallurgical anomalies, and prominent die breaks, you're looking at a coin that is quite literally unmatched in known numismatic history, with only one known specimen confirmed to exhibit all these traits together in such well-preserved condition, because condition plays a huge role too, and this 1953 D wheat penny has been graded by a top-tier grading service at MS67RD, meaning mint state 67 with full red luster, which is almost unheard of for coins of this vintage, since most pennies from the early 1950s have long since oxidized into brown or red-brown coloration due to natural copper aging, and finding one with full mint red and virtually no contact marks is a feat in itself, let alone one with this insane stack of rare features. So when a high-end collector or institution is faced with the chance to own a coin that is literally unique, with impeccable provenance, museum-level condition, and a cocktail of errors that read like a textbook of U.S. Mint mistakes, the bidding war can reach astronomical levels. And in this case, that's exactly what happened, as private collectors and investment funds battled it out in an ultra-exclusive auction that wasn't even publicly listed, leading to the final eye-popping sale price of $41 million. And while that number might seem surreal for a copper penny, it reflects a growing trend in high-end collectibles where ultra-rare specimens across all categories, from vintage comic books to rare sports cards to one-of-a-kind coins, are fetching tens of millions as scarcity and provenance drive prices in a market flush with wealthy buyers seeking unique alternative assets. And the 1953 D penny in question has since become a kind of numismatic legend, appearing in private exhibitions, high security vaults, and elite showcases alongside coins like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar. And its mystique continues to grow not just because of the eras themselves, but because of the mystery surrounding its origin. With some experts theorizing that the unique composition and minting anomalies might have resulted from experimental planchets or die tests at the Denver Mint that somehow made it into circulation, while others speculate that it was the result of multiple errors stacking up during a single strike session late in a production run. And the fact that only one such coin has ever been authenticated adds a layer of exclusivity that pushes its market value even higher. And as the years go by, stories continue to emerge of people checking their change jars and discovering strange anomalies in wheat pennies. And though it's extremely unlikely anyone else will find another 1953D with this exact configuration, the story continues to inspire hope among collectors and treasure hunters who understand that the right combination of date, mint mark, condition, and era can transform a simple coin into a life-changing discovery. And so the legend of the $41 million wheat penny continues to captivate and intrigue not just because of its jaw-dropping value, but because it represents the ultimate prize in the world of coin collecting, a perfect storm of mistakes, mysteries, and immaculate preservation that turned a humble cent into one of the most valuable coins ever sold. And if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. And don't forget to check your pocket change because you never know what hidden treasure you might be carrying around every day. Next, 1944 wheat penny. Today, we're going to explore one of the most captivating and mind-blowing stories in numismatic history. The tale of the 1944 wheat penny that has reportedly been valued at an astonishing $45 million due to its extreme rarity, historical significance, minting errors, and unique characteristics that defy the ordinary and captivate collectors worldwide. Imagine stumbling upon what seems like an ordinary penny in your change jar or an old family coin collection, only to discover that it's actually one of the most valuable coins on the planet, worth more than many luxury homes, yachts, or even private jets. That's exactly the case with this legendary 1944 wheat penny, which stands apart not only because of its age but also due to the multitude of rare mistakes and minting anomalies that occurred during a very tumultuous time in world history. Let's rewind to 1944, a year still embroiled in the chaos of World War II, where every resource was being directed toward the war effort and materials like copper, tin, and other metals were being strictly regulated for military use. The U.S. Mint, in an effort to conserve copper for ammunition and military electronics, had experimented with alternative metals for coinage. In 1943, for example, pennies were made out of zinc-coated steel, resulting in the iconic 1943 steel cent. However, as production resumed normalcy in 1944, the mint returned to using copper, but something unusual happened. Some steel planchets from 1943 were accidentally left behind in the minting presses, and a very limited number of 1944 pennies were struck on these leftover steel planchets instead of the correct copper alloy. This is where the mystery and the magic begin. These extremely rare 1944 steel pennies became an anomaly, an accident that turned into one of the most sought-after mint errors in coin collecting history. But the 1944 wheat penny worth $45 million isn't just a simple steel penny. Its extreme valuation arises from a combination of errors, including a unique composition, ghostly strike patterns, doubling, off-centering, and even historical provenance, all bundled together in a single specimen that could be considered a numismatic miracle. First, let's talk about the planchet error. While the majority of 1944 pennies were supposed to be struck on copper alloy planchets made from recycled shell casings, these being 95% copper and 5% zinc, this rare 1944 penny was mistakenly struck on a steel planchet left over from the 1943 minting run. That makes it already incredibly rare, with only an estimated 30 or so known to exist from all three mint locations, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. But what makes this particular $45 million penny even more unique is that it was double struck, meaning the coin was struck twice by the dies, causing a dramatic doubling of images and inscriptions such as the date, the Lincoln bust, and the phrase, "In God We Trust," which creates a ghost-like or shadowed appearance that's highly prized by error collectors. Furthermore, this penny is slightly off-center, a minting flaw that occurs when the blank planchet isn't properly aligned with the dies during the striking process, resulting in design elements that are shifted or partially missing, adding yet another layer of rarity and intrigue. As if that weren't enough, the coin also exhibits die cracks, tiny fractures in the die that manifest as raised lines or irregularities on the surface of the coin, often seen as lightning-like streaks or wavy lines across the metal. These imperfections not only provide visual uniqueness but also serve as a fingerprint of the minting die's deterioration, which further helps authenticate the coin and tie it to a specific mint and time period. But perhaps the most significant factor contributing to this coin's astronomical valuation is its incredible state of preservation. Despite being over 80 years old, this particular specimen is in near mint condition, graded as MS-68 by Professional Coin Grading Services, which is virtually unheard of for era coins of this age and composition, especially considering that steel cents are prone to rust and corrosion due to their iron content. The fact that this coin has survived in pristine condition is nothing short of miraculous, suggesting that it was either preserved in an airtight container, discovered in an old mint bag, or safeguarded by an astute collector who recognized its value decades ago. And then, there's the human story, the possibility that this coin once passed through the hands of a soldier during wartime, or sat in the register of a corner store as America wrestled with the final years of World War II. Its historic resonance cannot be overstated. It is not just a rare coin, it is a tangible artifact from a pivotal year in global history, and that historical aura imbues the coin with additional cultural value that goes far beyond the metal and errors alone. Add to this the rarity of its exact strike pattern, a near-perfect alignment of multiple error types not often seen in conjunction, a 1944 steel planchet, double die obverse, off-center strike, die cracks, and even a repunched mint mark, believed to have occurred when a mint employee manually adjusted the mint mark on the die, leaving visible remnants of two impressions. Each one of these factors individually would increase the value of a coin tenfold, but together, they create a one-of-a-kind masterpiece, a unicorn in the world of numismatics. Let's also not overlook the influence of market dynamics. When a wealthy collector, investor, or institution identifies a coin like this and is willing to pay a premium to secure it, prices can reach astronomical heights. Bidding wars among elite collectors at prestigious auction houses like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers can push the value of a coin into the millions, especially when the coin has been professionally authenticated, graded, and encapsulated in a tamper-proof holder with provenance tracing back to famous collections. Some experts believe that the $45 million valuation isn't just about the current market value, but also includes its perceived future value as an appreciating asset, much like fine art or rare gemstones. With the rise of alternative investments and collectibles, coins with irreplaceable qualities, like this 1944 wheat penny, are seen as historical commodities, merging the worlds of finance, history, and culture. And there's still more. Some researchers believe this coin may be linked to an experimental minting test conducted during the transition from steel back to copper, meaning it could have been a trial strike or even a prototype coin never meant to circulate, further cementing its singular status. There's even speculation that this coin was deliberately struck as a test piece by a mint employee who recognized the uniqueness of combining steel planchets with updated dies, possibly with the intention of preserving it for posterity or study, though no official records confirm this. That only adds to its mystique, and in numismatics, mystery can be just as valuable as metal. So when we speak of the 1944 wheat penny worth $45 million, we're not just talking about a piece of metal, we're talking about an irreplaceable relic layered with minting mistakes, historic importance, and an aura of mystery that makes it a coin collector's ultimate dream. From the improper planchet to the doubled dies, the off-center strike, the die cracks, the repunched mint mark, and the unbelievable condition, all these elements converge to make it a true one-of-a-kind treasure. If you ever come across a 1944 penny, take a closer look. You might just be holding history in your hands. Because in the world of rare coins, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary can be a tiny mint error that turns a humble penny into a multi-million-dollar legend. Keep checking your pocket change, keep hunting those coin rolls, and who knows? You might just discover the next big story we'll cover right here on the channel. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more incredible finds that remind us that history can be hiding in plain sight. Last. Today we're talking about a seemingly ordinary coin that could make you a millionaire overnight. The 1945 wheat penny that's been valued at an astonishing $24 million due to a combination of incredibly rare errors, minting mistakes, and historical anomalies that have stunned numismatists, collectors, and even the US Mint itself. So sit tight, because what you're about to hear could change the way you look at pocket change forever, as we unravel the intricate mysteries surrounding this copper-clad enigma minted in the final months of World War II, a time when the United States was still rationing metals, industries were transitioning from wartime production, and the US Mint was adapting to rapid changes in material supply chains, all of which created the perfect storm for a number of unique and valuable coin errors to occur. But what exactly makes this specific 1945 wheat penny so astronomically valuable, more than any other common Lincoln wheat cent from the era, which typically fetches only a few cents to a few dollars? And how did this particular specimen ascend from being loose change to a multi-million-dollar collector's dream? Well, first we have to dive into the history and context, because 1945 marked the end of World War II and the mint was under incredible pressure to produce currency quickly and in vast quantities to support the rapidly shifting post-war economy. Meaning quality control sometimes fell by the wayside. Now normally the wheat penny from this year was struck in copper, as steel cents had been discontinued after 1943. But it is theorized that a few planchets from the steel cent production remained in circulation or got mixed accidentally with the copper blanks and were struck using the 1945 dies, which brings us to one of the first and most significant errors potentially responsible for the enormous value of this specific coin. The off-metal strike, in this case possibly a 1945 wheat penny struck on a leftover steel planchet, an error so rare that only one or two examples may exist in the entire world, and if confirmed, would immediately place the coin in the upper echelon of minting anomalies. But that's not all, because the particular specimen we're talking about also exhibits a double die obverse, or DDO, which means the image and inscriptions on the front of the coin, such as Lincoln's profile, the date, and the phrase, "In God We Trust," appear doubled, a result of the die itself being improperly manufactured during the hubbing process. And in this case the doubling is strong and easily visible to the naked eye, unlike more minor examples which can be difficult to authenticate. And then to make matters even more intriguing, the coin also features a misaligned die strike which caused the obverse and reverse to be off-center by just enough to be obvious, but not so much that it ruined the coin's design. Meaning it's a visually stunning and unique piece with multiple errors layered on top of each other, a kind of perfect storm of minting mistakes that's almost never seen in a single coin. And as if that weren't enough, close analysis using modern magnification tools and X-ray fluorescence has shown unusual metallic compositions in the coin's planchet itself, leading experts to speculate that this penny may have been struck on a transitional planchet not intended for US cents. Potentially a foreign coin blank meant for export or contract coinage, as the US Mint often produced coinage for other countries during and after the war years. And if it turns out that this coin was struck on a blank intended for a Belgian or South American denomination, for example, that could add yet another layer of scarcity and intrigue, making the coin not just a domestic rarity but a global numismatic anomaly. And when you start adding up all these factors, an off-metal strike, doubled die obverse, die misalignment, Unique alloy composition, historical significance, and pristine condition, it becomes easy to see why collectors, auction houses, and even museums are willing to place astronomical bids on this single piece. And speaking of condition, this penny was graded by one of the top numismatic certification agencies as MS68, near the top of the scale, meaning it's in nearly flawless mint state, with strong luster, full wheat lines on the reverse, crisp details on Lincoln's jacket and beard, and virtually no contact marks or wear, a feat that's almost unheard of for a coin that's 80 years old. Especially one that could easily have been lost, spent, or damaged beyond recognition over the decades, and it's precisely this combination of minting errors, historical significance, mystery, and pristine preservation that has led this 1945 wheat penny to command a price tag of $24 million at private auctions, with some experts predicting its value could climb even higher if another specimen with similar characteristics is never found, making it a one-of-one coin and possibly the rarest wheat penny ever discovered. And the story doesn't end there, because rumors persist in numismatic circles that there may be more of these era pennies out there hiding in forgotten collections, junk drawers, coin rolls, or old coffee cans in grandma's attic, which is why penny hunters and treasure seekers alike continue to comb through old change and estate sales, hoping to stumble upon the next multimillion-dollar cent. And it's not just about the money either. Owning a coin like this is like holding a piece of living history, a tangible artifact from a pivotal time in American and world history, carrying the weight of war, economic transformation, and industrial change within its tiny copper shell. And for those who love the hunt, it represents the ultimate payoff for years of searching, learning, and obsessing over dates, mint marks, and diagnostic features. And while most 1945 wheat pennies will never be worth more than a few cents, stories like this prove that numismatics still hold surprises, that even the smallest and most overlooked coins can hide untold value, and that the thrill of discovery is alive and well. So next time you get change back from the store or crack open that old coin jar, remember that you could be holding a $24 million era coin in your hand, just waiting to be discovered, authenticated, and celebrated as one of the rarest and most valuable coins in U.S. history. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the mystery and majesty of the $24 million 1945 wheat penny, make sure to stick around for more amazing coin stories, because this channel is your ultimate source for rare coin news, era discoveries, valuation insights, and hidden treasures hiding in plain sight. And with stories like this continuing to emerge, there's never been a better time to get into collecting, learning, and maybe even becoming the next lucky person to find a fortune hiding in their pocket change.